The Raiders take a page out of the Commanders' playbook when it comes to their 30 visits with their top prospects. That plus more on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for April 16th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you. If you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page, you know we appreciate both. Show grows each and every day because of your support and the job that my man Ari does behind the scenes each and every day, making sure that we look good and sound good. And that's not easy to do, but he does it on the YouTube page each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And if you want to be a part of the show, as many of you do, we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. We'll get your feedback, your calls, your texts, plenty of it. We'll get that coming up in segment number 3 as we close out today's show. Segment number 2, another veteran, a big-time player, a guy who's been a big-time producer in the National Football League, is all of a sudden become available less than 10 days away from the start of the NFL draft. So how will that impact the Raiders? Will that impact the Raiders? We'll talk about that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, and really has to do with some of the draft prospects that the Raiders have brought in for their 30 visits. We'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So off top, Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State. All roads have led to the Raiders taking him at number 6. Almost too many roads, right? I mean, it's almost like a foregone conclusion that Ashton Jeanty is going to go to the Raiders. And maybe he will. But it just seems like, you know, in the draft process, we hear so many different twists and turns. We hear about one guy who's a favorite to go to this team. Then all of a sudden he's dropping. This guy's climbing up the board. All of a sudden this team has a lot of interest in this guy. Like, it just has not changed. It's been so steady when it comes to Ashton Jeanty and the Raiders. Now, does that mean he's going to be picked by the Raiders at number 6? No, not at all. Does that mean that he won't get picked by the Raiders? No, not at all. Like, we really honestly don't have any idea, but clearly all roads have led to Jeanty and the Raiders for the longest time. So he was on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN on Tuesday, and he was talking about his 30 visit that he had set up with the Raiders. And look, the Raiders went out to see him at his pro day at Boise State, John Spytek, and the running back coach. They had him come in for a 30 visit. It was him, defensive tackle Mason Graham, LSU offensive tackle Will Campbell, Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart, Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, Ohio State quarterback Will Howard, Michigan outside linebacker Josiah Stewart. So they had a large group and large contingency of draft prospects in Las Vegas all at the same time. So how did the visit go? What did the Raiders do? Here is Ashton Jeanty on the Pat McAfee show explaining it.
On my 30-day visit with the Raiders, they had us playing golf at Top Golf, but I know they were scouting to see who had a good swing or not. I know they were.
How's your game? How's your game?
It's all right. It needs a little bit of work.
So I think was there a group of you there at the top 30 visit for the Raiders?
Yeah, it was a group of us.
Okay, so I think they're trying to see how you interact with people probably, right? And everybody that has ever talked about you said, like, perfect teammate, great teammate. It feels like that's something you take a lot of pride in, yes, I assume?
Yeah, I mean, relationships are important, especially, with those guys that you're going to battle with on the field.
We talk during Top Golf, or are we quiet? Do you talk on the field, or are you quiet?
It depends. It depends on who I'm playing. Like, if it's somebody who talks trash mode, then I'm gonna talk back to them. But golf, I'm not talking trash because I'm not good.
It's my turn to hit. Great. Let me get this out of the way, and then you guys kind of do your thing. Excited to watch. Cheer you guys on. Do your thing.
Good move by the Raiders, though. Worked out for the Commanders.
So they all went to Top Golf and competed. And it's funny because I remember this same move that the Washington Commanders did just a year ago when they took Jaden Daniels and a group of guys to Top Golf as well for their pre-draft visit. And I remember at the time, I was kind of confused by it, not going to lie. I mean, this is just the maturation process for all of us, right? We all kind of learn different processes for these teams. And what I learned about the Commanders and Adam Peters, who's now the GM there in Washington, is that in San Francisco, that's what they used to do. They used to take these guys out in groups and really see how competitive they were with each other, see how much they interacted with each other. Like, what was it like interacting with guys? So when I look at it, I don't, get confused at all anymore. When I see this, I think, oh man, that's screaming Pete Carroll. right? I mean, you heard what Pat McAfee had to say about interacting with others, and you heard others say, well, it worked out pretty well for the Commanders and Jaden Daniels a year ago. I think this has Pete Carroll's name written all over it. Compete, compete, compete. Isn't that what we always talk about? So why not go out to Topgolf, which is a great spot here in Las Vegas. Been there a few times myself. Why not go out there and compete? And again, I'm one of those guys, I know for a matter of fact, I want to win at everything. I don't care what it is, something I'm not good at, something I am good at. I just want to win. That's what it's all about. Competition, competition, competition. So it doesn't matter if I'm playing putt-putt. Doesn't matter if I'm playing Topgolf. Doesn't matter if I'm, doing a little pop-a-shot at the house. Whatever the case may be, I want to win at everything. And I'm sure that Pete Carroll, John Spytek and company wanted to see out of all those guys, all those big-time draft prospects who they're bringing in, who had that same competitive drive. Now, obviously, they don't have to win. It's not like, well, Ashton Jeanty won. He was the best top golfer, so they're going to take him. But they do want to see how they interact with other players and other prospects and people in general, right? What's the communication like? What's the competition like? Like, that all makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm not mad that they did that. I would really love to have been a fly on the wall just to see how competitive these guys are with each other, because again, these are all alphas. I mean, you're talking about big time defensive tackle on Mason Graham, probably a top 5 pick. Obviously, Jeanty could be a top 6 pick. Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. I mean, that's a quarterback. You know that they're ultra competitive, right? Quinn Ewers, same thing. Will Howard, same thing, right? These guys have that competitive drive in them. So I would have loved to seen that, but trust and believe that's a page straight out of the book of the Washington Commanders, and before that, the San Francisco 49ers from a year ago and before that. So I'm not mad at that. I think that that's really cool. And, I just think that they were just, again, really pushing that competitive nature. Now, when it comes to Ashton Jeanty, as I've mentioned before, every road has led to the Raiders taking him at number 6, or even if they trade back a little bit, there's still a scenario where maybe they even get him at, say, number 9 if they did, in fact, trade with the New Orleans Saints, the scenario that we threw out there earlier this week. Mina Kimes on NFL Live on ESPN. Got a lot of respect for her. Really like what she has to say. I love her football breakdown. Think she comes from a very good place of knowledge. Was talking about Ashton Jeanty, and she was actually being asked about him just being a top 10 talent, not going to the Raiders at number 6, but about him being a top 10 talent, and if that makes a lot of sense as far as the value of the pick and can he be an effective player. Here's what Mina had to say about Jeanty as a top 10 overall player.
Does Jeanty's skill set warrant picking him that high as Adam's talking about?
It does. He's an unbelievable football player, but I think you have to consider a couple of things. One, the opportunity cost where you're picking. The Raiders are a great example of this, considering a receiver, maybe an offensive lineman, 2 positions where, because the players make so much more money, you get more value from finding a rookie star. That is taken into consideration. And then the other thing I think is just the context. The example I always go back to is Saquon Barkley, who was a generational prospect, was drafted in a way that reflected that. But he had the up and down career with the New York Giants through no fault of his own. Some of it was injuries, but a lot of it was the situation. And I think what we've seen with running backs is a great one can take a good offensive line or run behind a good offensive line and send your offense to outer space. That's what happened with Saquon in Philadelphia. A great running back cannot fix a bad offensive line, even one as good as Ashton Jeanty. So I think when you look at the top 10, think about places where you want to take him. Team that comes to mind is Chicago for me, one that has put a lot of money into fixing their offensive line, because if you stick him behind a bad offensive line, that's not a good draft pick.
Really liked what she had to say, and I like the description. I know there's been a lot of back and forth on what Jeanty can do and what he can't do. Loved how she said, he could take your offense to outer space, like what you saw Saquon Barkley with the Eagles, or he can be a guy that's a good player, like Saquon was with the Giants, but just not consistent. Like she said, no fault of his own, even though there were some injuries that plagued Saquon Barkley early on in his career with the Giants. But you never saw that consistent, dominant player that you saw in his 1 year with the Eagles, because they just didn't have all the tools in place. The Eagles have the number 1 offensive line in football. Number 1, not okay, not good, not middle of the pack, not one that's improving, number 1. That makes a huge difference. They also have weapons on the outside. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. They also have a really good quarterback in Jalen Hurts, a guy that can get it done with his arm and his legs. Like, they have a lot going for them. And as far as I'm concerned, Saquon Barkley was able to put them over the top. So the question that I threw out there to Raider Nation on my radio show on Tuesday was, if Jeanty is the selection, and I'm fine if he is, for every reason that we talked about on this show many times, if he is, do you think that the Raiders offense is more of an offense that can go to outer space, like really take off and be super productive? Or is it one that we're going to see be really good some weeks, be okay other weeks, be bad other weeks, then be really good again? Just, up and down. Like I always say, what are you going to be consistently? If you're going to be a 7 consistently, that's fine. Just be that 7. Don't give me a 10 one week, a 5 another week, a 3 another week, then a 9, right? Don't be that roller coaster. Who are you going to be consistently? That's what we want to see. That's what I want to see as far as just someone who's sitting back observing what this team is going to do and wants to do consistently each and every week. And I think that's what Raider Nation wants as well. Give me a consistent product. With Jeanty in the mix, with the rest of the Raiders offense as we know it right now, what will they consistently be? Will they take off or will they be very inconsistent? So I thought that was some really good stuff from Mina Kimes. Final little nugget I have for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, news and notes of the day. I had Adam Rank from NFL Network, NFL.com, on my radio show a few weeks ago, and he always puts out a mock draft of not what he thinks is going to happen, but what should happen. A year ago when he was on my radio show, he said he thought Brock Bowers should go to the Raiders. Well, Brock Bowers went to the Raiders. Obviously, things went really well. He was on my radio show just a couple weeks ago, and he had mentioned instead of taking Ashton Jeanty at number 6, going with Will Johnson. He said he was working on that piece right now. So Will Johnson's the cornerback out of Michigan. Well, that mock draft dropped on Tuesday. So here's what Adam Rank had for the Raiders at 6. And he said, you would probably love for Travis Hunter or Ashton Jeanty to fall to this spot. And they still could. Teams don't always listen to me, which is fine. But if they're gone, there's enough depth in this class at receiver and running back to wait on those positions. To me, it makes sense to take a cornerback to help the defense, given that there is currently just one player on the depth chart, Ja'Corian Bennett, who topped 5 passes defense last season. When I think of your past picks, Raiders, I think of speed. So I'll give you Jaylen Ramsey, who posted a 4.39 40, tied for 6th best among quarterbacks at the NFL Scouting Combine over Will Johnson, who has not run a pre-draft 40. You trusted me a year ago. Do it again. Adam Rank from NFL Network and NFL.com. And again, we've talked about Barron. We've talked about Johnson. Compared and contrast, we got a call saying Barron was the better selection. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think about what he was able to do at UT, the fact that he's a Swiss Army knife. He has run the 40. We do know how fast he is. And the fact that he could play all over the field, it feels to me like Barron would make the most sense as well. I'm not saying necessarily at 6, but if the Raiders were to go cornerback in round 1, I think Jaylen Ramsey would be the way to go, like Adam Rank from NFL Network and NFL.com. Coming up in segment number 2, speaking of cornerback, there's a vet quarterback that is available for the Raiders and any other team to make a trade for him. But should the Silver and Black do it? We'll talk about that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about one of the great sponsors here on the show, and that is LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means it's time to hire. You need a partner that works just as hard as you. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. So what do? You got to post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualify candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So right now, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I want to talk about the veteran cornerback that is available by way of trade right now. We heard Adam Rank from NFL.com, NFL Network. He mocked Jaylen Ramsey to the Raiders in his mock draft of things that should happen, not what he believes is going to happen. And as he mentioned, you trusted me a year ago. Do it again. So maybe they don't want to go in that direction. Maybe they're thinking about a veteran cornerback as they added a couple in free agency, but they're all guys on prove-it deals, a one-year deal. So there is a big-time cornerback that we found out on Tuesday is available. This came down from Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. He tweeted, the Dolphins and 7-time Pro Bowl cornerback Jaylen Ramsey are mutually set to explore trade options, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he played elsewhere in 2025. That's per me and Tom Pelissero. Miami and Ramsey do $25.1 million fully guaranteed this season, could be parting ways. Then later on, Rappaport tweeted, Dolphins GM Chris Greer confirms at this pre-draft news conference that after weeks of conversations, the team is exploring moving on from Jaylen Ramsey. We decided it was probably in the best interest for all parties to move forward. Ramsey may not get traded, and Greer said, if he's here, we'll deal with it. But it doesn't sound like Jaylen Ramsey is going to be available. Now, the thing about it is, and of course, this always happens whenever a guy with a big-time name like Jaylen Ramsey becomes available. One, he gets linked to the Raiders immediately. Every outlet who's an outlet's like, oh, the Raiders want him. The Raiders want him. Two, a lot of Raider Nation sees it and says, oh, we want him. We want him. We want him. Like, let's go get him, right? That's immediately what always happens. We know that. Here's a little bit of a double down when it comes to Ian Rappaport. He was on the Insider Show on NFL Network and kind of explained a little bit more about this potential trade for Jaylen Ramsey. Check it out.
Yeah, a new mega contract for Jaylen Ramsey just 1 year later now. Essentially, here we are. It feels like, Tom, the best way to sum this up is this relationship has run its course, right? I mean, it was kind of a whirlwind romance, if you would describe it like that, a big-time trade to great fanfare from the Los Angeles Rams, who also acquired Ramsey in a big trade to great fanfare, had a ton of success. Ramsey, one of the best players in the NFL over the course of the last decade, at his position, showed up there, unfortunately got injured, but really was an incredible person in that team during the time of his injury, ended up getting healthy, got that huge new deal, fast forward a year, and after several meetings, after several conversations, the determination was made by Ramsey and his people and the Dolphins and their people to move forward and try to seek a trade. Now, there's no guarantee that Ramsey will be traded, as Chris Greer said. If he's not traded, they'll figure it out. He's due $25 million fully guaranteed. $4 million has already been paid, so a team acquiring him would only acquire $21 million fully guaranteed, but certainly there is at least going to be a market.
So my biggest thing is Jaylen Ramsey is over 30 years old, right? 31 years old at this stage of the game. He's not Jacksonville Jaguars Jaylen Ramsey. He's not LA Rams Jaylen Ramsey. And now he's, Miami Dolphins, sound like ex-Miami Dolphin Jaylen Ramsey. Look, he's missed time with all the teams that he's played with, right? He hasn't been fully healthy. I know he can still go, don't get me wrong, but I just think that it's not a very good source of using your resources correctly if you go and make the move for Jaylen Ramsey. One, I know he's going to want a contract extension. He's going to want more money, but it's the money that he's already owed. $25.1 million fully guaranteed for this season. He's already been paid $4 million for a roster bonus. So any team that picks him up, whether that's the Raiders or anyone else, is still going to have to pay about $21 million fully guaranteed. And that's before they decide if there's going to be a contract extension or not. And remember, it's not Jacksonville Jaguar Jaylen Ramsey. It's not early in his career Ramsey when he was the most dominant defensive back. Do I think Pete Carroll would have interest in him? Sure. Right? As we all know that the Raiders are trying to win now, they're also trying to build for the future. But I don't know, how much they'd be willing to give up as far as draft capital. Look, they have 9 picks right now. They already gave up 1 pick for Geno Smith. They don't really need to be giving up more draft capital. They want to be able to have some cracks at it in the upcoming draft. I don't know what Miami would be looking for, but between having to give up draft capital and having to pay at least $21 million fully guaranteed for Jaylen Ramsey, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I really don't. I think this Raiders team is a 7-8 win team, right? Again, I'm kind of going with the 8-9, the same path that the Denver Broncos took year one with Sean Payton. I feel like that's fair, right? Obviously, we haven't seen the schedule yet and how it plays out, and things could always change, and they could always do better than that. But I just want to, put it at around 8 wins. I feel comfortable that they should be around that when it's all said and done in 2025. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for a team that doesn't believe that they're a championship team this year to go and get Jaylen Ramsey. Like, they're not one Jaylen Ramsey away from all of a sudden making a deep playoff run, winning the AFC West, or, being a potential championship team. If they were closer, if they had already been to the playoffs, if they had already won 10 games, okay, maybe. Right? Maybe, there should be some interest, right? I know the Raiders have the money to technically do it. And again, they could go out and do it just because Pete Carroll wants to have the most competitive team possibly out there, right? He wants to see if he can win as many games as possible. And we all know Jaylen Ramsey at one point of the game was one of the best in the business. I just don't know if John Spytek and Pete Carroll combined, and even Tom Brady, who obviously has his thumbprint on the organization as well, is going to think that that's the best use of resources. at this stage of the game as they're still trying to build this thing. As much as it sounds good, it would look good to see Jaylen Ramsey in a Raider jersey. I know there was one stage of the game where he was in Jacksonville where he actually wanted the Raiders, and they were in Oakland at that point to make the trade for him. But what the Raiders offered, Jacksonville didn't want. They ended up trading him to the Rams. We all know how that ended up playing up. But I just don't see that making a whole lot of sense for the Raiders at this stage of the game. But I know there's going to be a lot of Raider Nation is going to talk about it. And as I say all the time, whenever a big-time name becomes available, or even people think that there's a chance that they could become available, they always tie them in with the Raiders. You put the Raiders and you put them with any other name that's out there, and all of a sudden it's a sexy headline, right? And folks want to go and get clicks as well. They want you to read their stories. And when you attach the Raiders' name with the passion of the fan base, and again, just because it's the Raiders, a lot of times they're going to get those clicks that they're looking for. Now, we did get a text on this, of course, right? Professor Boston Raider hit us up, Professor Raider from Boston, I should say, excuse me. He texted in and said, okay, Q, after hearing Jaylen Ramsey's on the block, this is what I'm picturing. Raiders trade with the Saints from the 6th to the 9th. They get number 71. I know you were pushing for the second, but I'm not sure it'll happen. Draft Jeanty at 9, draft Milroe at 37, trade 71 for Jaylen Ramsey, and 68 best player available. That would be my ideal draft. Recent history has shown that the Raiders have never done what everyone thought they were going to do. Farrell, Abram, Arnett, Leatherwood, but I actually have hope and belief in Spytek and Pete Carroll. No more Clemson captains, no more cherry-picking players that play in the national championship game. Actual calculated picks that fit the philosophy and system. Let's go Raiders. Just win, baby. Professor Raider from Boston. So there you go. And, I mean, that's a scenario that you look at. Would another third-round pick, would that be what the Dolphins are looking for Jaylen Ramsey? I don't know. I would like to think that they're probably going to try to hold out for a little bit more. I don't know what he's worth at this stage of the game. But, again, I can see how Pete Carroll, Raider Nation, could get excited and think, man, Jaylen Ramsey in the silver and black would be great. But, again, I just think that the money is too rich at this stage. You can go and you can get a guy, a younger cornerback. You saw what they spent in free agency. You can build that room with some younger talent, try to build them up. That's who Pete Carroll works really well with, right? All the research we've done on Pete Carroll, he does really well with younger players. I think he can get some rookies in there, get a guy like a Jahdae Barron in there, get a guy like a Will Johnson in there, work with them. Really work with him and help get his game to where it needs to be so this team is built for the long haul, not just a short fix, especially when the short fix is not going to result in a championship right away. But that's just my thoughts. I know that Raider Nation is going to be thinking about, well, how can we make this work, right? And I don't, as you should, right? And John Spytek, as the GM, should be thinking about that as well. Pete Carroll, is there a way that we can make this work where it makes sense, right? Again, I think the biggest hang-up for me would be the money. I just don't think at this stage of the game the money makes a whole lot of sense for what the Raiders are trying to get done. But, of course, definitely wanted to bring that to the table, as that is a big piece of news that the Dolphins and 7-time Pro Bowl cornerback Jaylen Ramsey could be, moving on from each other by way of a trade, most likely before the draft. But it also could be something that happens as a draft day trade. So whether that's day 1, day 2, whatever the case may be, you can see it happen sooner rather than later. But we heard that text right there from Professor Raider from Boston. What is on your mind? Your calls and texts are next as we close the show out. 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, and that is FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. The action was going on Tuesday night, play-in games, right? Orlando and Atlanta, Golden State and Memphis, right? So right now, it's not too late. You could join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, and you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting so easy. You could pick your favorite team. You could dive into player props, three-pointers, steals, assists, whatever the case may be. FanDuel has so many ways to bet your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win real big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a text from Raider203. It says, Q, Raider203 here. Thanks for everything you and Ari do for the nation. I was just jotting down names, and I think I'd be happy trading back for a really good package, down to anything slot 12 or better. So he's basically going from 6 to 12. He'd be comfortable in that range. Here's all the players I'd be happy with in the first if we got extra seconds and thirds. All right, Cam Ward, Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Armand Membu, Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Jahad Campbell, Teteroa McMillan, plus someone else will take Tyler Warren. So that's 12 deep I'd be happy with, and doesn't even include Will Johnson. Thanks again, Raider 203 out, Raiders. So there you go. He's thinking about the possibilities of trading back and who he thinks would still be available. Obviously, a guy like Cam Ward's not going to be there. Travis Hunter's not going to be there at 12, right? I doubt that Shedeur would be there at 12. He might not get past the Giants at number 3, right? There's certain guys that you just rattled off that there's no way that they're going to be there at number 12. But, I mean, a Jeanty, maybe that's a possibility. Membu, Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Jahad Campbell, right? Teteroa McMillan. Those guys are realistic options there if you trade all the way back to number 10, or number 12, I should say, anywhere in between 6 and 12. But, some of those top dogs, like Cam Ward's going number 1. Travis Hunter, I think, goes number 2, number 3 at worst. So we'll see. But thanks so much for that text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Apple Valley Raider. He's calling to talk about a quarterback prospect that he thinks the Raiders should look at maybe, round 3. Here's Apple Valley Raider.
Yo, Q, it's Apple Valley Raider. Hey, I just want to let you know, man, I appreciate all the good stuff you do on the podcast, your radio show. Hey, you're an inspiration to many of us, man. As we go to work, we see you grinding. So a man like myself, I can grind too, make it happen. Provide for my family. But anyway, hey, I appreciate you putting the Quinn Ewers stuff out. I'm literally listening to the live podcast. Here it is today around lunchtime. What is it? Tuesday. Max Crosby's podcast. Check it out. He's talking about Quinn Ewers. He's a huge Quinn Ewers fan. Q, I don't know. I watched Quinn Ewers play. I watched his game. I listened to what you said on the. He's competitive, and he's obviously competitive. Look at him on the field. He's competitive, and that's what we want is competitive. Imagine him in the 3rd round. You got to get him. I don't care. Got to get him. But anyway, appreciate you, Q. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm a big Quinn Ewers fan. I believe he might be the best quarterback in this draft. We'll look back 3 years later and say, wow. Apple Valley Raider called it. I'll let you.
Thanks so much for the call. I'm not big on Quinn Ewers, right? We've talked about that quite a bit. I got to see him a lot when he was at UT and I was in Central Texas. But I will say this, to your point, when you talk about competitors, and this goes back to what Ashton Jeanty had to say that we heard from in segment number 1, where he was saying that these guys all went out to Topgolf here in Las Vegas and competed. I bet you Quinn Ewers was really on his A game when it comes to competition. He is absolutely that. That's something I do know. Look, this is a guy who had a Manning behind him, right? He kept Manning on the bench. Fans of UT were screaming for Arch Manning since he arrived on campus in 2023. He came in with a huge NIL deal. He was a 5-star recruit. His name was a Manning. Did I mention that? And for the most part, Quinn Ewers kept him on the bench except when he was not available due to injury. So if you're getting him in round 3, if that's what we're talking about, a round 3 pick for Quinn Ewers, sure. I'd be fine with that. Maybe he has a chance to sit behind Geno. Maybe he learns. Maybe he does grow into a franchise quarterback. Or he's just a guy that fits the culture, understands what Pete Carroll and company wants to do. Brings their philosophies to this team. Pete Carroll, as I mentioned the other day, he knows Steve Sarkisian really well. So obviously, if anyone's going to know Quinn Ewers inside and out, it's going to be Sark telling Pete Carroll about him. So yeah, I could definitely see that in the 3rd round. I wouldn't pick him till at least obviously day 2. And like I said, round 3, maybe even day 3, starting in round 4. But Apple Valley, thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Tony in Clayton, North Carolina. Says, Q, grateful for your coverage and the information you provide on a daily. In North Carolina, it's Duke, Tar Heels, Panthers, or for entertainment purposes, the Cowboys. But I'm so glad the Raiders are about their business this offseason with moves they've made so far. But I still have a concern that you've been preaching a lot, and that's the offensive line. If Sanders is there or we get Jeanty, we still need upgrades on the O-line. So if the Saints come calling, I'd take the deal just as you called it on Monday. Get their 1st and 2nd, but I'd take a future 3rd or 4th. At 9, there'll be value. And with 2 in the 2nd round, there'll be a running back and a quarterback available. I just hope somehow we continue to build positively and with the offensive line pick. One last thing, I truly believe if Sanders drops to 6, Brady will push for him, not Jeanty. Brady definitely will be an X factor in the draft room on draft night. But Q, I wouldn't be mad. It's just commitment to excellence. Take care, Q. That's Tony in Clayton, North Carolina. Thanks for the text. Appreciate you. And That's a factor, and I've brought this up so many times to anyone who will listen about Shedeur, and I know people are like, I don't want to hear about Shedeur. You like him, whatever. That's fine. I do like him. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. But I also think that Tom Brady is a factor, as you mentioned. Tom Brady knows him better than anyone, right? Outside of his dad, I'm sure Tom Brady knows him better than anyone. He knows what he'll bring to the table. He's talked about not wanting a quarterback to start right away and be able to sit and learn. If anyone would listen to Tom Brady and listen to the plan because he knows what kind of quarterback he is, it would be Shedeur. So I could see that being an X factor in that draft room. I just want to know what the dynamic is. I want to know how much Spytek has to say, what his role is, how much Pete Carroll's influence is there, and obviously, more importantly, how much Tom Brady's influence is there, and who would win that argument if it came down to, say, Jeanty, Shedeur, Armand Membu. You know what I mean? Like, I could see Carroll going for Membu. I could see Spytek going for Jeanty or vice versa. And then Brady saying, yeah, I think Shedeur would be the way to go. Like, if there's three different guys with three different thoughts, who wins that conversation? That would be interesting to be a fly on the wall. Obviously not in that position, but I would love to be there to hear that conversation if it played out that way. Obviously, it would take for Shedeur to drop the number 6 before we would ever know that. And then obviously Jeanty as well, along with Membu or any other offensive tackle that they may be interested in. But thanks for the text. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Raider JD in Nashville. He's calling about the draft, the quarterback position, and what he thinks would be a good idea for the Raiders in that position in particular. Here's Raider JD in Nashville.
Q, what's going on? It's Raider JD here in Nashville, Tennessee. Appreciate everything you and Ari do for the nation. Just want to give my opinion on the quarterback situation. I agree 100% with what you've said about the fact that we've gotten too comfortable not taking quarterbacks in the past. That being said, I don't think it's the worst idea if we don't get one this year due to the fact that this year's class is not that strong. I feel like next year's class is a lot better, and to be honest, I feel like this is the year with the amount of picks that we have that we can build the trenches. Defensive line, build up our strength. Offensive line, get running back, really establish the run game. Next year, like you said, if we find our guy, we trade up and we go get him. Just want to get your thoughts on that. Like I said, I agree. We've got too comfortable with it, but I feel like next year's class could be a lot better. Thanks a lot. I appreciate everything you do.
JD, thanks for the call, my man. Appreciate you. Not a bad idea in theory, but here's my question. Can you bank on that scenario playing out next season? And what I mean by that, and the reason I'm asking, the Raiders, in my opinion, just my opinion, will win 7 or 8 games. So let's just say they go 8-9 year one with Pete Carroll, right? That's what Sean Payton did the first year with Denver. So the Dolphins, Colts, and Falcons all won 8 games. And their picking range in round 1 of the draft, 13 to 15, right? Raiders have been there, done that when it comes to pick 13. Is that a range where you feel like you're comfortable getting your quarterback? Is there going to be enough demand or enough supply for the demand, I should say, at that quarterback position, right? Is that realistic? That to me, and I mean, yeah, you could trade up. We talked about that for a long time. Trade up, trade up, trade up. But how many other teams are going to want to trade up? Is Pittsburgh going to get their quarterback this year? Are the Giants going to get their quarterback this year? Are the Browns going to get their quarterback this year, right? What other team is going to need a quarterback, right? I mean, like, that's the thing that we don't know the answer to. Like, is Carolina going to be happy with Bryce Young after this year? Or are they going to be like, oh, yeah, no, that's not going to work, right? I mean, there's so many teams that you can look at and say they may be in position and might need to put themselves in position to go get a quarterback, including the Raiders, if they don't get their guys. So that's why I'm kind of skeptical on the whole, well, just wait till next year. I mean, I know my guy Chris Canty from Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, obviously used to be in the league for a long time, won a Super Bowl. He's already got the Be Awful for Arch shirts going for the New York Giants. Like, he wants them to be so bad this year that there's no doubt they get Arch Manning. But the question is Arch Manning coming out in the draft next year? Like, we don't know that. NIL is so ridiculous. The money's so ridiculous. And he's already a Manning. He's already paid. I mean, he hasn't really had an opportunity to play that much in college. What if he decides he wants to, let me go play one more year? I'm not in a hurry to get to the league. That's what NIL has done. No, the money's not the same as the NFL, but it buys time where these guys don't have to come out, right? I mean, you saw Carson Beck. Everyone thought he was going to come out this year. He ended up going to Miami and getting a big NIL deal. I thought Quinn Ewers was actually going to go and transfer to North Carolina. He did come out. Jalen Milroe, I thought he was going to stay a year. He came out. But there's other quarterbacks that you could see stay in college because, well, they're getting paid. So, I mean, again, in theory, it's a good idea, but you have to ask yourself, is it really going to happen? Is that really a possibility? Or are the Raiders going to find themselves in no man's land again and not have an opportunity to go get their guy? That's the big question that you have to ask yourself. But thanks so much for the call. It's always great to hear from you. We'll close things out with a text from Cal Neva Raider, which California Nevada Raider, right? That's the short for that one. He said, new booty text, love what you do. So thankful that you're part of the nation. Let's get serious. Travis Hunter is the dude, as you like to say. Let me put it in this way. Tim Brown, Charles Woodson, Travis Hunter. What would it take to try to move up? That is the target. What do you say, Cal Nevada Raider? Let's go Raiders. Thank you for the text, first of all. Appreciate you being a new booty texter. Hopefully it's not the last time. I mean, that's something. I've seen it floated around. Rhett Lewis from NFL Network, NFL.com. He works for the Raiders on the podcast network as well. He floated that idea out there about, the Raiders trading up. They love Heisman Trophy winners. You pointed them out, Tim Brown, Charles Woodson, Travis Hunter. I mean, man, if you can get to number 2 from 6 and go get Travis Hunter, that would be awesome. I don't know if they're in the business to be able to mortgage that much to go get that player, but that would fill 2 voids, right? You have him as a corner. He's your starting corner, and then you have him as a package for the wide receiver position. When he gets his hands on the ball, he knows what to do with it. I mean, that would be a showstopper. You want to talk about putting butts in the seats at Allegiant Stadium, he would do it. Travis Hunter is phenomenal. I would be here for that if they were going to do that. I don't know if they'd be willing to do it, but it's a thought. I don't think there's a team in the league that wouldn't want Travis Hunter. He's that stinking good. So, again, don't know what it would cost. I will ask some folks. I'll ask some of the draft analysts and the gurus, the experts, even Mel Kiper. I'll ask him just on Thursday when he joins my radio show, Joe and Q on ESPN Radio, and get his thoughts on it. But, again, don't think it would happen. You're guaranteed to miss a shot you don't take. So why not take that shot? Thanks so much for that text. I do appreciate you. And I got a call from Raider Vato in Newman, Georgia. We'll get that tomorrow. A text from TM Jones in Vegas. We'll get that tomorrow as well. Obviously, we'll have more news and notes. We'll continue to roll on as we get closer and closer and closer to the start of the NFL draft. Daniel Jeremiah is having a massive, draft conference call, pre-draft conference call, the final one he's going to do. He's got that coming up on Friday. So, on Monday, we'll have some sound from that. Got a lot coming up, man, the next few days. Again, all things NFL draft as we get ready to see what direction the Raiders go and the other 31 teams in the league go as they try to prepare their team for 2025 and beyond. So until tomorrow, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.